Okay, thank you very much. And I just want to warn you ahead of time that I'm dealing with two more things than I usually deal with. That means that I'm dealing with three. I have a microphone hanging in my glasses case, and that's very disconcerting for me. And also I have my notes on one computer and my presentation on another computer. So if I get out of sync with myself, please bear with me and I'll see what I can do to get back where I belong. We're going to be looking today at some of the research that is currently going on in the College of Architecture, Design, and Construction. And before we did that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the college itself, because the nature of what we do and do not do is very closely linked to the nature of the college. We are a professional school. Our mission and our main objective is to prepare students to exercise their professions. Everyone who comes to our school, student or faculty, comes with that objective in mind, and we do not hire faculty to do research. Everyone who comes to our school as faculty is hired to teach. They're hired to prepare people to be responsible and professional professionals. We only have one research degree, and that is the Master of Industrial Design. And actually that research degree is a value-added degree. It's meant for people who have experience in industrial design, but who want to add the skill of research to their professional skills. Let's see if I gotta use two fingers to get this going. We're a relatively small college. We have 13 degree programs, 6 of which are undergraduate and 7 of which are graduate. Those numbers would give you the impression that we had more graduate students than undergraduate students. That is not indeed the case. It's exactly the opposite, and I'll show you that in a minute. We have 3 graduate certificate programs at the executive level. We have 2 collaborative programs. In other words, they don't belong to any particular of our 3 schools. And we have 1 executive master's program in addition to the certificate programs. Our student enrollment is, the bulk of our students are enrolled in undergraduate, and only 15% of the roughly 1,300 we have at any given moment are graduate students, which is another impediment to an active research agenda. At any given time, we have approximately 70 FTEs in for our college faculty. Roughly 60 of those are full-time. We have a large number of what we call adjunct faculty, what the rest of the university calls visiting faculty, and these are people from industry and the professions who come to complement the education that our faculty can give our students, and that interest is very clearly related to the fact that, once again, we are preparing students to be practicing professionals, and we find it extremely important to keep them up to date with what's going on in the professions. Our programs are very highly ranked. 3 of our programs are nationally ranked by Design Intelligence, and the rest of our programs have been recognized in one way or another. These are programs that don't have rankings for the disciplines, but they've been recognized amongst their peers as some of the best in the country consistently. So we're very proud of what we do, and we're very conscious of what we call the college DNA. And as I mentioned, first of all, our DNA principally, what we do every day, and everything that we do is prepare our students for professional practice. The way that we do this is very unique to Auburn. It's another thing that we're very proud of. We call it learning by doing. We constantly drive our students to go from theory and from the creative process to practice. Our learning is extremely hands-on across the college. Every time a student has an idea that he or she thinks is a good idea, they have to prove that they can make that idea a reality and move it forward that way. We never just stick with the theory. We believe in teamwork and collaboration. All of the disciplines in our college are by nature disciplines that have to be done and carried out in teams. It's impossible for anyone in any of our disciplines to work in an isolated manner, and this disciplinary work is not just within the disciplines, it's cross-disciplinary. All of the teams that our professionals, faculty, and students work on involve a number of disciplines, so we are collaborative by nature. We believe strongly in outreach and community engagement. We believe that all of our disciplines are service disciplines. We don't consider them to be luxury disciplines. We consider them to be disciplines that are necessary to the well-being of the humans on this planet and in the state of Alabama. And we teach our students to become deeply involved with their communities. We support creative scholarship and work ferociously. We believe that the work of our faculty and students is valuable because of the fact that it is creative and practical at the same time. And coming to research finally, which to us is relatively new. We have not been known for our efforts in this area. We have learned to consider a lot of what we had already been doing to be research and to treat it as such. And this is specifically in the areas of applied design and the practical applications of knowledge and technology. We're both dreamers and makers. That's actually in our college mission. And as I said, we consider our disciplines to be service disciplines. We don't consider them art, although they do involve creativity. We value beauty, but believe that it has to work hand in hand with functionality and comfort to provide human dignity and joy. And this is something that all of us transmit to our students and that our students transmit back to us on a daily basis. So let's look a little bit at what we do in terms of research. Because of the nature of the college, which is basically a teaching college, our research is founded in pedagogy, and most of the projects that you'll be seeing today are projects that have come out of teaching or the classroom or the studio environment in one way or another. It's based on the practical applications of knowledge, design, and technology. It's related in many instances to economic development and community well-being. It frequently involves client and user interaction. That's something that's very special about all of our disciplines. We use empathy modeling and full-scale modeling on a regular basis in project development, and we also seek innovative ways to achieve more effective organization of visual information. These days that's being called infographics, and I'll show you a couple of examples of that as we move on. So, Dr. Liu asked me if I could make this presentation on CADC research, and he added that it had to be cool research. So I will do my best to present the coolest research that we have in the College of Architecture, Design, and Construction. I'm going to start with something that I think all of you are acquainted with. We're going to start by looking at the Rural Studio. I think that most of you probably have some vague notion of the Rural Studio as a kind of loose group of students and faculty out in Western Alabama who make buildings out of experimental materials like used tires and windshields and carpet tiles. Well, we've done that, but we don't do it any longer. What we do now at Rural Studio is basically two kinds of buildings. We build community buildings. Once again, this is our discipline at the service of the community. We build community buildings at the request of the community. And our buildings now, rather than using experimental construction techniques or materials, emphasize the use of traditional materials mixed with cutting-edge technology and construction methods. But where our research is concentrated out in Rural Studio is the 20K House project. That's been going on for a number of years now, and it's our research branch of the architecture program. And it's a project that was developed and designed to develop well-designed affordable houses in an area of the country where most poverty-stricken families live in rental units or dilapidated mobile homes. We also feel that the design and construction of affordable housing in a depressed area like Hale County is something that will support economic development and sustainable communities in the area. And above all, the 20K House is an effort to design and build dignified homes that make responsible home ownership a possibility for everyone in this area. This is the reason that we got interested in and dedicated to the design and building of 20K houses. As I said before, most of the housing stock for people who can't afford middle-class housing in the area is homes like this or dilapidated mobile homes, dilapidated and depreciating mobile homes. There's very little home ownership at this level, and we try to make home ownership accessible. All of our 20K houses, like all of the buildings out at Rural Studio, are designed and built by students for specific clients. The 20K house is designed to be regionally appropriate, and by that I mean that it responds to local climate, local custom, in other words, how have buildings and homes always been built in the region, and to readily available materials. It's also designed to be built by local contractors. These are not prefabricated homes. They're built to stimulate the economy so that local contractors can learn how to build them. We provide construction manuals and workshops so that local contractors can learn how to do this. These homes are designed to be easily expanded. They start with 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms, but part of the package includes plans that show you how to expand the building if your needs change or your family grows. And as I said, these homes are not prefabricated. Very frequently when there's a disaster like Katrina, the disasters in Haiti, many parts of South America and Asia, we get calls asking if we can ship a couple hundred 20K houses to the disaster area. We can't. These homes, as I said, they're not prefabricated. They can be built regionally, but we don't have a storehouse full of 20K houses ready to go. To our mind, that would defeat the purpose of what we're doing in terms of regional appropriateness. So far, our students have designed 17 and built 17 20K houses. They've spent over 130,000 hours collectively. And Rural Studio, although it is not raised, it's raised about, the 20K house has raised about $300,000 in external funding. It's raised a lot more than that through gifts, grants, and in kind. That's actually the way we raise most of the funding for the 20K house. Students work extensively with clients. I can't emphasize this enough, how important human interaction is for all of the work that we do in the college. Students are not off in a design studio designing a home that they hope is going to be appropriate for somebody. They work with the client to understand the client's needs, how the clients live. All students out at Rural Studio are encouraged to build not only one-to-one construction details to prove to us that they can actually build what they've designed, which is a very important thing, but we also require in many cases, especially the 20K house, that they provide mock-ups of the interior spaces in the home so that they get a sense of what these spaces will really be like. We consider it inappropriate not to be that thorough with the design of homes. And what we've done with the 20K house to make it, in order to turn it into something that can be more dispersed so that it's not just 1 or 2 houses that our students produce a year. So we've created a product line which has standard construction. It's very detailed in terms of the building instructions and the cost of labor. And once again, as I said before, the purpose of that is to promote regional regional economical development. These are just a few examples of the 20K houses that have been built in recent years. I don't have examples of the ones that were built last year, unfortunately. So this is Dave's house. The 1-bedroom houses have approximately 500 square feet, and the 2-bedroom houses have approximately 800 square feet. Every single one of those houses designed and built by hand by Auburn students. We've expanded the product line to include accessibility. We've discovered that we have a number of clients with disabilities. Turner's house included a ramp, and Eddie's house was built on grade to make it more accessible, and we're looking at more designs for accessible housing. The product line, which despite the fact that it's not prefabricated, we feel is accessible to the kind of people in Hale County who need it. We've actually studied how many people would be eligible for this kind of housing. There are 11,000 of the 15,000 people in Hale County, and there are 197 similar counties across the rural South where a program like this could be implemented. The 20K project is intended to be profitable for contractors who decide to build it, and we've used building information modeling to ensure that any changes to the design can be incorporated into the budget in real time. The finances of the project are very clear. $256 a month is what a family receiving Social Security can afford to spend of their monthly income on a mortgage, as outlined by the USDA. That was the original objective of the 20K house. When we started 20K, 20K was the total budget for a home like this. With a $43,000 loan, you have enough money for appliances for the home, to pay the contractor, and to pay the labor and the materials for the house. Dave's house, which was the first one that I showed you, was built for $20,000 and is now appraised at $45,000. Mobile homes depreciate in value. We're as concerned with qualitative criteria in these homes as we are with quantitative criteria. We believe that homes should provide human lives with dignity and presence and a sense of identity and place. We design these homes to provide spaces that promote family and community life, traditional spaces like porches and stoops. We design the homes for optimal conditions of health. They're very well ventilated. They're always cross-ventilated and well lit. We accommodate them to our clients, and we build them very, very well. There's not a single one of these buildings that we're not extremely proud of. Rural Studio and the 20K House have brought us a lot of prestige, both nationally and internationally. This is just a slide of an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York called Small Scale, Big Design. Dave's house had a room to itself in this exhibition. Another research project that comes out of the architecture program is Design Habitat. This is a project that has been carried out for a specific client, which is Habitat for Humanity. And what this project does is try to make habitat, not try, it makes homes for Habitat for Humanity that are regionally more appropriate than the ones that they normally build. Habitat for Humanity tends to bring in a standardized model home, and they build the same one anywhere in the country. What we've tried to do with them, what we have done with them, is devise a way of making hybrid models that combine traditional construction methods with prefab to create traditionally more appropriate homes. As you can see in this case, this is a home that's well ventilated, has cross ventilation, porch space. This is another example. You can see here the students. These are designed and built by students as well. The prefab coming in and the students doing the rest of the construction. This comes out of the landscape architecture program, also in the School of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture. Phenology is the study of recurring plant and animal life cycle stages. One of the earliest phenologists in the country was Thomas Jefferson, and we're following his example. Landscape architects build spaces with plants, and plants are not like bricks. Bricks are inert. If you treat a brick well, the brick will pretty much stay the way you want it to stay, and it will behave itself. Plants behave in a completely different manner. They're dynamic. They change, they grow. They change by the cycles of the year, and they grow over time. And how do you incorporate that into a design as a landscape architect? How do you incorporate that into the design of landscapes and gardens? And one of our landscape architecture faculty members has been doing a remarkable job of coming up with a method for documenting the changes in plant life over time and making them accessible both to researchers and designers. In addition to being just strikingly beautiful, these images are extremely useful in terms of understanding very readily what any given type of vegetation is going to look like over time. We're also, as I mentioned before, very interested in what we call infographics, which is the visual organization of data and material in such a way that it's readily readable and extremely useful to researchers and designers. This is just an infographic that shows different growth patterns and foliage patterns of a number of species over time. This is a wonderful one that shows the changes in a common persimmon over a 12-month period. And then these are graphs that show the changes and cycles of different kind of plants, not only in terms of their own foliage and fruits, but in terms of their interaction with the world around them. This is not only a tool for documentation, it's a tool for design. In this case, a garden that was designed using phenology. Alabama workshops. Also, this is a collaborative research project that comes out of the interior architecture program in conjunction with the graphic design program. The objectives were to support, first of all, identify, study and support Alabama craftspeople and makers, and then to support and strengthen their role in local economies, and particularly in statewide tourism. Phase 1, which is completed and was supported by the Alabama Council for the Arts, identified and worked with 25 Alabama makers across the state and produced wonderful printed material that's been used to help create and maintain a crafts network across the state. And Phase 2, that we're looking for which we're looking for more external funding, will produce a workshop toolkit for Alabama makers to work in strengthening this network of makers across the state and helping to introduce it into local economy. Design history timeline. This comes out of the industrial design program, and basically this is a way that we use to visually represent important advances in design within the context of the social and political events that helped to shape them. And we've actually used this most recently for pedagogical reasons. We've used it in a core course, the idea of visual mapping to fulfill student learning objective 11 with relation to both insight and participation in fine arts activities in terms of understanding a student's ability to both appreciate and participate in activities like this visual mapping. We have a center. It's called the Center for Construction, Innovation, and Collaboration, and it works out of the McWhorter School of Building Science. One of the most interesting things that they do is related to the practical applications of building information modeling and photogrammetry. They use drones. I'm supposed to say unmanned aviation systems and vehicles for that. In this case, they used 3D modeling to assess the roof condition of Samford Hall, and were able to identify what slates needed to be repaired. This has a lot of potential for many applications. We applied for a U.S. Battlefields grant to use BIM and LiDAR scanning as well as photogrammetry for the appraisal of the officers' quarters at Fort Gaines down at Dauphin Island. We did not get that funding, but got very positive reviews and were encouraged to try again. This is one of my favorite. Anyone who was at Showcase last year saw this. This is a drawing of the Toomer's Oaks. It was done for the Historical American Building Survey. This is managed by the National Park Service. They're extremely stringent about the requirements for the drawings of historic buildings and sites. And this is so typical of what our faculty and students do. They used a 3D scanner to make complete 3D models of the trees and the rest of Toomer's Oaks, and then they, using beautiful hand drawing, transformed that three-dimensional laser scan model into this drawing of Toomer's Oak, and it won a prize. Studio Plus Build is a collaboration between building science, integrated design and construction, and industrial design. What happens in this particular collaboration is that faculty and students from all of these disciplines work together with the objective of increasing safety and efficiency on construction sites. What they do is identify areas where safety is not optimal and where the tools that are being used are not as efficient as they could be. And between them, they come up with designs for new tools and resources on the construction sites. This is another one of my favorites. This is a student who designed articulating scaffolding, which was meant to save the construction workers the time that they waste when they get down from their ladders, move the ladder, climb back up on the ladder, get down, move, climb back up. He designed what is essentially a movable ladder so that you can walk on this and move it. By mistake, he presented this to the professional category in the National Conference of Industrial Design Society of America, and instead of the student category, and he actually won a prize for it. That's how good it was. And just today, we got the licensing agreement for a tape measure anchor clamp that is a product of our Studio Build collaboration. And basically, this is a product that makes it possible to clamp a tape measure to the inside face of a form on the construction site, and it also allows you to rotate the head of that clamp so that you can measure at an angle as well as perpendicular. It's compact, simple, durable, low-cost design, but we have a license for it now. We have 4 verified patents and about 80 patents pending on the products that have come out of this collaboration. Okay, just to confuse you a little bit and change the scale on you, we design at every scale and we build at every scale. We currently have been funded by the Greater Birmingham Community Foundation. I said that wrong, but anyway, we've been funded to do a project on downtown connectivity. And connectivity basically refers to the quality of connections within a circulation network, and in terms of historic downtowns like the one that you find in Birmingham, it means that you pay a lot of attention to the street, you pay attention to street intersections, you make sure that they're in proximity, you make sure that the streets that people use are walkable, safe, usable, comfortable, and interesting. And one of the things that will come out of this project is a toolkit for connectivity and healthy living in downtown Birmingham. Okay, Industrial Design Assistive Technology Design Lab comes out of 8 years of collaboration with the Center for Disability Research and Services at the College of Education. For 8 years, within a classroom and studio environment, our faculty and students have been working one-on-one with veterans and other clients with disabilities in order to identify needs and design products that will make the everyday lives of these people easier and more dignified. Over the past year, this is one of the areas where we're really pushing that move from not doing research into doing research, where we're really pushing the idea that what we've already been doing can actually be a source of external funding for the research that we do. We do this by baby steps. This has been made possible by actually convincing the faculty member from our college who's been doing this project to accept a course release and 2 research assistants to help him move forward with this project. And we called what he's doing a design lab, so that now he has an actual space and a title to be able to work with. Over the past year, our design lab and the team from the College of Education has presented a series of proposals for externally funded grants for a total of close to $4 million. So there's a lot of funding out there. There's a lot of need for the services that we can provide out there. And the proposals have been presented to a number of agencies, including the Veterans Administration, the Paralyzed Veterans Administration, the Department of Defense, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Health and Human Services, and I can't remember, anyway, that's in the Department of Education. It has to do with rehab. So the process through which we discover the needs of people with disability and design products for them starts once again with very close contact with potential clients. And it's our colleagues in the College of Education who help and are responsible largely for screening the clients and coming up with the people who will work with our students on these projects. We do contextual research on all of the projects. We find out what's out there, what the history is. We work with clients to see what their specific needs are. We do empathy modeling. This is so important. What we do is our students, in order to understand the lives of the people and their needs, spend a couple of days and up to a week actually literally walking in their shoes and understanding what it's like to not have legs or to be blind and to not be able to do chores that we do every day. Continually working with the clients, they then go through project development. Just a couple of examples of products that have been produced over the past 8 years by our students. This is a pill dispenser for a young man who lost the use of his limbs after an accident and has virtually no feeling in his fingers. This is a wheelchair mount and a series of accessories that we designed for a young woman who also lost most of the use, strength and use in her arms and legs through an accident. So we've designed a way for her to mount a camera on her wheelchair, for her to be able to press elevator buttons, to be able to eat, all sorts of things that are specifically designed for her, but obviously have uses for other people. We've done a lot of work with people who need prosthetic limbs and have very specific problems related to the fact that they are missing limbs. We've done a lot of work with blind people. This is the design for a measuring cup for someone who is blind. And if you've ever tried to measure something with your eyes closed, you'll get an idea of why something like this can greatly increase the quality of life in a blind person. And lately we've been working a lot on this idea not only of the prosthetic device, but of the intersection between the prosthetic device and what we call the stump, the end of the living limb. So we go through analysis. We're trying to make our products affordable. We're not trying for high tech. We're trying to make affordable, accessible products that we can also provide not just the design and manufacture of the product, but also the service. People grow, people change, people shrink, people swell, people deflate. And a lot of these prosthetic devices don't adapt readily to those changing characteristics in the people who use them. So we've worked not only on the design of the prosthetics, but also on the design of that transition between the prosthetic and the living human limb. One of the solutions that we came up with was an inflatable sleeve. Instead of using a number of layers of sleeve, which is normal for this kind of prosthetic limb, we use just one that can be inflated and deflated. For the final solution for the prosthetic limb, the faculty and students relied heavily on biomimicry and 3D printing. And this responded to a need for many of the clients that we've had who want their artificial limbs to look more like limbs and less like something that's not a limb, something that's not human. And these are also extremely strong. They're extremely flexible. They do everything that more high-tech limbs do, but they're much more affordable and accessible. Right now we're battling. We just presented a grant proposal that we hope will allow us to come up with the funds that we need to buy a bigger laser printer, because right now it takes us almost a week to print one of these things on the laser printer that we have now. So I wanted to show you some student work. Because so much of our research is related to pedagogy, we have some extraordinary work coming out of our studios and our classrooms. This is a project called In Between that comes out of the interior architecture program. And this is, I just get really excited about this project, and I know you probably won't, but it's, what this student has done is studied elementary school buildings that are in the process of decay. There are a lot of them spread out all over Alabama, and it's much cheaper to rehab a building than it is to demolish and build a new building. So what this student has done is looked at these buildings, and instead of trying to come up with a proposal for completely refurnishing the entire building, he looks at places for strategic interventions. It's almost like planting the seed of redevelopment within the building itself. And he's come up with projects, of which this is an example, where he concentrates on the corridors and the stairways and on the mechanical systems. So he relocates mechanical systems to the roof, refurbishes the mechanical system, frees up a lot of space and a lot of light, and then concentrates design and build efforts on these crucial spaces. And one of the things that's so exciting about this project is not just the intelligence with which this student has looked at how can you bring a building back to life, but also the method that he uses for displaying this. This is a combination of just beautiful model making. This is actually the photograph of a model that's where human figures have been photoshopped in. So it's this really effective method for recreating real environments, which is a serious problem in architecture. How do you show people what a space is going to look like? And this student has come up with a wonderful solution. As I said before, we're heavily invested in the idea of infographics, particularly in our environmental design undergraduate program, which is very heavily research oriented. The students research very specific topics and then are required to translate the data that they discover and their conclusions into these infographics. This is just one example. Oh, by the way, the student that I showed you before won a first prize in the student symposium. This is research a couple of weeks ago, and an environmental design student won a second place, I believe. And then out of industrial design as well, we have also a long-going healthcare product design studio. And this is a young woman who has looked at the idea of how hospital costs can be cut and cost of the patient can be cut by designing devices that would test blood, where people can test blood in their own homes and then share the results with professionals. I'll just go through this really quickly. The cost cutting is absolutely remarkable. She used the same method that all of our students use, which is intense interaction with the client, with people who use these devices, with the professionals who would be using them as well, nurses, healthcare professionals. All of our students, as I said, were very hands-on. They can all build one-to-one prototypes. They know how things work. They study how people use things. And in this case, this young woman came up with a product for testing blood at home. So, like I said, it's a little bit ironic that the first college to present in this series of cool research presentations is the college that hands down wins any competition for not doing research. We do less research than anybody else in the entire university, at least what's traditionally recognized as research. But in conjunction with our interest in developing a PhD program, we've also looked very carefully at what areas of research related to our disciplines have the potential for external funding. And those are assistive technology. I've shown you some examples of that today. Specifically affordable and accessible assistive technology and the services that are related to the design and use of those technologies. Affordable housing. Hybrid model home design and construction for people with disabilities. We're dying to build a model home where we can plug in modules for people with different kinds of disabilities, and the modules would be the prefabricated parts of the homes that would be built with construction robotic techniques. We're very interested in the alleviation of rural poverty and the 20K house design habitat. We're also working on small farm and product design for the production and sale of local foods. Industrial design also has a long history of product design for rural health service needs. We're very interested in historic preservation and neighborhood building and rehab, and there's a lot of funding out there for that. Sustainable neighborhoods and buildings. Healthcare design and construction, the design and construction of products and environments for healthcare. Sorry, this got a little bit screwed up. And in terms of construction, we're looking at 3D data acquisition, modeling in design and construction processes, laser scanning, et cetera, construction safety and efficiency, and construction robotics. And if you will allow me to, I'm not sure where the mouse went. I hope I haven't kept your attention, and what I would like to do now is to entertain you briefly, if I can find, okay, here we go. While the next person who's up comes up, please just enjoy. This is the fruit of a seed grant in our college, which was given to a young graphic design faculty woman who is very interested in what she calls type in motion and the application of animation to graphic design. So here it goes. This just makes me happy. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.